It's the emotional cost.
Oh, I like this.
So 53% of recipients of WorkSlop feel annoyed. Okay.
Yep.
38% feel confused. 22% feel offended.
Oh, cool.
That somebody said. And
I'm gonna be super pissed next time you send me like an AI generated email.
Yeah.
Start it up. Let's get it rolling. Big ideas, money folding. Hustle smart, dream so wide. Turn that grind into a joyride.
So today we are talking about, actually, this came from an HBR article that I read, and I was just like, oh, once again, they nailed it.
Okay. You're a big supporter of HBR.
Well, yeah, they're kind of bright.
Yeah, they seem somewhat researched, which is nice.
Yeah, they seem to have data and those types of things. So here's the concept. So what is WorkSlop? So AI generated work content that masquerades as good work, but lacks substance to meaningfully advance a task.
Sounds like work.
Yeah. You know, when you go into AI and you kind of ask it something and it spits out like 5 paragraphs, but you're kind of like, is there anything actually valuable in here? Or is this just a lot of words sort of reiterating the obvious or not really giving us any insight? So the first point I want to put out there is that this existed before AI.
Yeah, definitely. That's why I said, isn't that just work? Because I think a lot of times about how folks, you know, whatever job you have, there's some level of just like in an office, you have to produce, right? Like it's not necessarily like, there are some roles that require like deeper, more like logical, analytic thinking, whatever. And like you have to draw a lot of outcomes from it. But then there's just sometimes where you just have to produce a lot of work. You need to, like I remember at Bell, there for some reason we would do our updates for the VPs and the SVPs. Yeah. We would put our text into a PowerPoint deck, and I would be in a single PowerPoint slide, and in that slide I would be in the bottom like right corner, and I would be like font size like 8. Like it was the weirdest use of PowerPoint I've ever seen.
What did they say to you? Like only one slide or only 2 slides, and you just had to get all the
put
content?
all your updates in here, put your KPIs here that you're focused on, and that was it. And it was the silliest.
So when they put it up on the projector, did they have to figure out some way to zoom?
I very much think that the way they would interpret that information was they would go, the VP would just go through the slides by themselves. This wasn't like a presentation.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was basically every mid-manager, like mid-level manager had their own slide. And then the underlings would populate the slide with content. So I was one of said underlings.
And this was an effort to streamline the messaging, I'm assuming?
They wanted one way to provide that information. But ultimately, it was all about like, again, this like output, this concept of like a lot of work. Like I had to show a lot of different data points, just enough for a VP anyway, just enough that they could understand what was happening.
Right.
But then for my boss, there'd be times like, hey, we need like this marketing document, which sort of lays out, you know, what we're targeting and why. And some of that is also like prevent buyer's remorse later, you know, kind of identify whose idea was this and, you know, and like, what were we trying to do? And like, so that makes sense. But then it gets very bureaucratic after a while. It's like memos responding to memos.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So on the point of streamlining the messaging for people, stuff like that, I was watching Real Time with Bill Maher on the weekend.
Okay.
And
do you watch that show very often?
I just happen to watch it. I don't actually watch it that often. But he had a guest on, Louis C.K.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And Louis C.K. made
Is he back? Is he uncanceled?
Apparently
he was definitely canceled for a while.
Apparently he's an author now. Like he released like a novel.
Oh.
Yeah. But
is it
kind of weird. I don't think it was supposed to be funny. I think it was like actually like
weird.
He got into like short stories. I don't know. Anyways, I digress. What I wanted to mention though is that Louis C.K. made a really interesting observation that I thought is very topical for what we're discussing today, this WorkSlop idea. He's like, yeah, so you go into your email client and you put a bunch of bullet points and then you have AI generate like nice written paragraphs. And then you send the email. The person on the other end receives those nice written paragraphs and has AI pull it back into bullet points to summarize it for
that's very true. Or tell me what's important in this email.
Yeah, exactly. And I just had this moment where I was like, oh my gosh, like why is the expectation that we need these lovely flowing paragraphs?
I have 2 pieces. Well, a couple of things. One is that people digest information differently. There's probably somebody out there who actually likes paragraphs.
Maybe.
And there's somebody out there who likes bullets, somebody out there who likes a diagram, somebody out there who likes the email to be read to them.
Okay.
different forms of learning.
Sure.
So I'll say that. But I do think that if your behavior is something where it's going back and forth and you don't have to make any decisions based on that,
Yeah.
like why is a human involved at all?
Yeah.
Right? Like if you don't actually need to do much with that information, or if AI could make what's a logical best decision for you.
I don't know. I feel like maybe we should be saying to, if we're running a company and people were starting to do that sort of stuff, I would almost just insist on skip the AI part. Just give me your bullet points and just hit send.
Yeah.
And and let's just set that as our norm, our convention on the way that we send emails around here, rather than wasting everybody's time and then having to use another AI tool to decode what you wrote.
Like it actually is negative productivity and certainly negative intelligence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're not actually pushed to do it anymore to actually understand what you're looking at.
Yeah. So this is also a good segue into another kind of piece of this topic, is that there's a bit of a paradox happening. So AI usage at work has doubled since 2023. Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But 95% of organizations see no measurable ROI on their AI investment.
None?
95% don't see any measurable ROI.
Okay. So
on their AI investment.
I heard this morning, we're shooting this on Monday. I heard Scott Galloway's office hours, most recent one, and they were talking about what's the situation where AI is going to take your job. Okay. And it's kind of similar to what I just said. It's a lot of this, there doesn't need to be, it's repetitive. There doesn't need to be any situation where there's a human making a decision.
Yeah, sure.
A lot of this going back and forth. And I think when we talk about AI, generally speaking, as a force multiplier, which is what I think a lot of even the AI bros sort of in Silicon Valley talk about as, I think a lot of the time that doesn't apply if the value of what you're producing is very limited.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if you're going to see gains as an organization, I think fundamentally it's a lot of these low level jobs, low level white collar jobs. Those are the ones that I feel like you're not going to get a force multiplication. You're just going to get a bunch of bullshit. Yeah. And what you actually want to do is get rid of those jobs. And whatever that is, automate, eliminate, or delegate. So you're probably going to end up delegating to AI or automating it, I suppose, or eliminating those roles entirely. And that's where you're going to see return.
So if we go back to the Louis C.K. analogy on the emails, okay, before AI, if you were just sending the bullet points, okay, and hitting send rather than converting them to paragraphs and then reversing out those paragraphs and going back to bullet points on the other end.
Yeah.
Is that there's the investment in AI, but is that the Workslop? Is that the crap that is coming through where you don't actually see a return on investment? In fact, maybe, somebody's sending you a massive email with all this detailed information, or all this not detailed information, Workslop information. So you're not getting any value out of it. Is that why a lot of companies, even though they're kind of implementing AI, they're not seeing the ROI?
I think they have to make cuts to see a financial, return on investment. It probably has a few definitions in this context.
Sure.
The first definition has to be literally the money. Okay.
Right.
So they've got to let go of people, because if you're having the same amount of people and, the output is just more of the same, and you're using these tools, it doesn't really make sense to me that it's going to be practical. It's not actually going to drive to the bottom line. So there's that. I think as well, I'm not exactly sure what we imagine in terms of a productivity return on an investment. So do we imagine that one email but written by AI is more effective than 5? How about this? So you think about that context. I send you a bunch of paragraphs. You send back to me a bulleted, or you use it to understand what I said. That maybe saves you from sending an email being hey, I didn't quite understand what you were saying here. Or can you clarify this a little bit more? Or, there might actually be gains there that are just really difficult to quantify. Maybe I'm a bit optimistic on the use of the AI tools and being able to measure this, but I'm not sure what we necessarily expect yet. I mean, we're not at AGI. Yeah. We a lot of organizations might be building their own LLMs to understand specific, rather than artificial general intelligence, it's artificial specific intelligence. Right. So they have their own LLMs for some of this stuff, but I don't really, what did they expect? You know what I mean? The other thing too is this is a really fresh technology. Yep. And
people are figuring out how to use it.
It's going to take time to figure it out, but it's also going to take time for, you mentioned this in a previous episode when we were talking about how engineers don't really like use it, like software engineers. And there's a lot of cultural issues here too. Like this is a change management problem. I actually think more than like, is the technology there or not? It's not really about that. I think the other thing too is, why am I going to use something that everybody keeps telling me is going to take my job?
Yeah.
Right. So there's like a lot of different pieces here that I think lead to the technology not getting an adequate return. It's two different things in my mind. There's Workslop because people are lazy, and this thing can write for you. It's the same way somebody in high school is having their essay right now written by ChatGPT or Claude or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. But that's totally different from, am I going to get a return using artificial intelligence?
Right.
How do you get your first customer? Hint, they might be right under your nose. Find the answer to this question and dozens more in Startup Different. Find it on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle.
So one of the most obvious AI uses that I think a lot of companies are trying to implement is for coding. Okay, so when I think about writing computer software, I know with our team, my team members would send me pull requests where they want me to review the code and go through it. And this was pre-AI, so all the code was written by a person, and there was still some work slop in there. And you'd roll your eyes. You'd get a pull request, and you're like, "Wow, look at all this code. It's not these complicated parts. I don't understand why
they're
doing
recursive
this."
algorithm. It was something you used to hate that was like very complicated, like written. It was almost like backwards.
Yeah, I had one developer who used to use ternaries all the time, and she would turn. I love you, Cordelia, but the single line of code that's doing so much logic and trying to review that was absolutely brutal. So like Workslop existed before AI. From a coding perspective, I can only imagine you could go in and ask AI to write code. You've got your specifications from your manager. You have AI punch out a bunch of code. You've probably looked at it, but you don't know it that well. Like,
I mean, this was your issue. You couldn't even you had trouble building code with the tool.
Yeah. So like, I think that's one of the things, is having a deep knowledge of the code is really important when you're writing computer software, and you really start to lose that. It becomes very foggy. You don't see how it works or why it did it this way. You didn't have the journey to get to where it was, so you're not really growing as a person. I think that's why a lot of developers don't love using AI for some of their coding tasks. Maybe for very specific things it's fine, but just like as an overarching, build me an app that does whatever, is not a good way to use AI, because you have no idea how it works.
It made something that you don't actually fundamentally understand.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I think breaks,
and that's the thing. But I think that is true for a lot of stuff. So if your boss asks you for a strategic analysis of, I don't know, whatever, some report that you get, and you slap it into AI, and AI gives you those bullets, and then you forward those bullets along, or maybe you do it through Gemini in your Gmail, like right away, right there, red hot. Yeah. And you send it back to your boss, and your boss says, "Great." Presumably you're gonna have a meeting with your boss later, and they're gonna say, "Hey, how'd you feel about a point? This one, that was," and you're gonna go, because you have no freaking idea. You didn't write it.
The other piece is that your boss is gonna be like, "Wow, look at all this. I have to decipher all this and see if it's actually good." Yeah, and there's kind of this resentful, situation that creates.
So two thoughts. Yeah. One is that I remember with the RFPs, I couldn't really get anyone else to do them.
Right.
So requests for proposals, big government issued documents or public organization documents that you have to respond to. There's usually, the average RFP takes 32 hours to respond to. Yeah. Okay. It's a beast. And I couldn't have people do it. This is well before AI, because they would copy and paste old answers, but they didn't really understand what they were doing. They were just trying to go off keywords in the questions.
Yeah.
And I would get super frustrated, and it would actually be negative utility. I'd have to go back and do it. That's the one thing I want to say there.
Yeah.
Second thing on this is that this is the other really important thing about the Workslop is I don't think it's just like, it does it quickly for you and you don't have to think about it and all this, but it's also wrong sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't really, and actually this is, truthfully, I'm lending this a little bit from Scott Galloway, because I heard it and I immediately agreed, which was like, why is it when you have an AI tool and you ask it something and you're like, oh, it gave you an answer, like, that's wrong. And you go like, hey, that's wrong. That doesn't make sense because I think you did this wrong. And it goes, oh,
you're right.
Thank you. La, la, la.
Thanks for correcting me. You're absolutely
right. And you're like,
right.
why the hell did I have to say it? If you know it's wrong, why the hell did you show it to me? Like, I don't understand that. What is in the corpus or the behavior of this thing that is like, I will give a wrong answer.
Yeah.
Unknowingly. Like, does it not check its work? I don't understand. Like the computing,
you got me on that.
infinite computing power. Let's just almost, not really, but like tremendous computing power.
Yeah.
And it just blows it.
Yeah.
Like you can even be like, this is what this is.
Depends on the training. And then you've added more information where you're now saying, oh, that's wrong. So then it goes through the vector database and it starts finding the connections to other things. It's like,
All
oh,
right,
but
easy there, college
this connection
boy.
is wrong. So now like recompute. Yeah. Anyways. So let me go back to some data. So we talked about this Workslop and being the recipient of the Workslop. So if you get a piece of Workslop, do you know how much time on average you spend trying to, I don't know, absorb it or deal with it?
Like without AI?
Well, just as a person to deal with it.
I don't know. Like on average work slot. I mean, it depends on the amount of work slot.
I'll just give you it's about an hour and 56 minutes, almost 2 hours.
What? What do you mean?
Yeah, to deal with Workslop. So if somebody prepares a big report for you and it's all Workslop, it takes you about an hour and 56 minutes to like sort it out. Okay.
Like without the use of AI.
Yeah.
Because like the thing is, you counter Workslop with your own AI.
So there's obviously a financial tool on that. You can do the math.
How the
of what
hell
that
did
costs,
they measure
but
that?
I have no idea.
How did they know that?
But here's what's interesting is I thought
crazy.
the emotional cost.
Oh,
of it,
I like this.
So 53% of recipients of Workslop feel annoyed. Okay.
Yep.
38% feel confused. 22% feel offended.
Oh, cool.
That somebody said. And
I'm gonna be super pissed next time you send me like an AI generated email.
yeah, and then it creates. This is obvious, but I never would have been able to put my finger on it. Is it creates this like burden of how to address subpar work without damaging relationships. So if you've got an employee who just pounded out a 20-page report that you think they like used AI, but then they worked through it and whatever, but maybe they didn't. They just sent you V1 that came out of AI. How do you go and tell that person?
So this is
garbage.
culture. This is change management. This
Exactly.
is going back to an HR issue.
You know me, I'm non-confrontational, so I would have a really hard time. I'd be like, well,
oh man,
I guess I have to fix this myself.
Dude, if somebody's sending me some bullshit, I'm definitely going to be like, don't send me that bullshit.
Yeah.
Like you have to be able to do that.
All right, so that's the emotional cost. Let me throw out another one. So the trust.
Hang on, before you go there,
okay.
The emotional cost. Have you ever, so I was emailing this guy a while ago for Operation Stealth, my stealth thing.
Yeah.
And, you know what? Like, so now you can kind of like pick up AI writing pretty quickly.
I'd like to forge a new relationship.
All these like bizarre words that you're like, okay. And so anyway, so he's emailing me and I emailed back being like, hey, just for your next one, just to prove to me that you're a real person, don't use AI. Don't just write me an actual thing.
Did you say that?
Yeah. Cause I have no fucking clue if he's a bot.
Oh.
Right? Like he could totally be a bot. I've never met this person in real life. They've only responded in AI. Are you real or not? I think there's going to be a weird.
That's going to be weird.
A weird like market movement towards like send a video of yourself and it like, but then it's also like, how do you not get like a deepfake video?
The AI like instructions prompt on the other end is if they ask you if you're AI, say no.
Yeah.
Write a worse reply.
Yeah. Actually, I've been AI. I'd be like, here's a stupid ass reply that you could write pretending that you're a real person.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. Okay, so that was the emotional cost. So I totally understand all that. So
cool.
There's also this like trust erosion. Okay, so recipients view Workslop senders as 54% less creative, 42% less trustworthy, 37% less intelligent, and overall less capable and reliable. So if you're sending it, you need to expect that people are going to think less of you. Well, especially if it's really bad.
Hang on. Some of that though too, again, I think goes back to the whole thing that AI is going to take my job away from me. And if I get too into it, it's bad. So people think people are stupid who use it. I think there's like a social stigma around this because they don't want it to take their job and livelihood. And I can respect that. Okay. Yeah. But at the same time, if you're sending garbage around and people can sniff that out like so quickly now. Yeah. And you know what you really have to do is actually go into like I just know ChatGPT really well. So go into ChatGPT, make an assistant, give it 10,000 of your previous emails. Yeah. And on every piece of work you've ever actually like written, and then be like, okay, you are me now. Yeah. And when you respond to people, write as if you're me. Like it's actually on you to be better at I don't know if it's deception or fraud, but I think it's a practical thing to do is that if you actually want an effective assistant, you should make them more like you.
Yeah.
And that can be done.
Absolutely. So to kind of wrap up this episode, what I'd like to do is
Glad you agree with me flawlessly on that. That was a perfect 10 out of 10 response.
kind of started to feel like work slop. So it's all right, fine.
AI actually wrote that response for me. I don't know if you. Yeah.
So we are Startup Different. I want to give a little bit of guidance for startup founders, startup entrepreneurs that are looking to implement AI or are implementing AI. So first thing I want to put out there is there's definitely like people have blinders on around AI. Just use AI for everything. Okay. I mean, like good management, right?
There's mandates. Yeah.
So, maybe I think number one is I would say don't mandate without some sort of a strategy. Like be selective about how you're going to use AI, what you're going to use it for.
I think it can never make the full decision. I think it can inform.
Yeah.
But it should never be making the decision unless it's some stupid shit. Unless it's like automating or that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Okay.
Like low level.
Chris's second piece of advice. Foster team transparency. So like it's okay to say, hey, Dave, I prepared that report for you. I used AI to help me do a big chunk of it. I've reviewed everything that AI put in there.
That's the key.
And I feel good about these things. The parts where I'm a little foggier are, I don't know if the mic will pick up
click,
me making
click.
noises.
Yeah.
But anyways, so some
we have
transparency.
like the Jamaican horn instead of the click every time.
It'd be a bit obnoxious.
Yes, indeed.
So the other thing too is really focus on the quality over just using AI, So like if you say to somebody, hey, I want you to use AI for stuff, but I want you to really focus on the quality. You have an opportunity here to not only have it help speed you up, but you have now more time to go back and review that information. And so if you take the pre-AI amount of time that would have taken to do, the post-AI time should mean that maybe it's the same amount of time used, but way better quality because you've reviewed it and you've put more into it.
I think that's a sequencing issue. Yep. So let me just throw this at you. So let's say I asked you to do a report. You had to write a report, a competitive report. Like look into our competitors, see what they're up to, whatever. And so nowadays, what you would do is you go to insert your AI tool, do your deep research mode, and put a big prompt in, qualify it, and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
By the way, I've heard now it's not prompt engineering; it's context engineering.
Oh, okay.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
saved to memory. So you context engineer a good prompt, and then it spits out whatever, and then you have to go from there and then take that information, do it. Whereas, like, I think traditionally what you would do is you would be working on it, and you'd be trying to draw conclusions, and then you would go and you try to find information, which is a bit of a confirmation bias thing. But you go and you try to find information that supports it. What's interesting is you get all the answers first, and then you got to write about it.
Yeah.
It's such an easy thing to be like, hey, now write about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I think that's what gets to kind of like, it's a weird, at least for my workflow, like individually, I just find that a little bizarre, the way it acts into it. It's like a different way of doing it.
Yeah. I think so too. Okay. So let me go into there's this concept, passengers versus pilots when using AI. So I think it's really important that emphasizes. So a passenger is somebody who's blindly putting in prompts and taking whatever AI says without giving it too much scrutiny. Versus pilots are really using their own expertise and using AI to augment it. Okay. So what you want to implement in your organization is the concept of having your staff be pilots rather than passengers of AI. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think that's really goes back to that quality focus as well. Looking for how are we improving the quality? We're not just want to slap through stuff and get it done as quickly as possible.
Here's the real question. Is this AI you're working with smarter than you in the thing you're working on?
Yeah.
And if the answer is yes, what are you doing there? If the answer is no, you use it to take that information and make better decisions.
Yeah.
It enhances you. It amplifies. AI amplifies good work, but it also accelerates shitty work.
Yeah.
I think is the reality.
You don't want to do it.
If you want to just offload this or you need to snowball someone, it is a very effective tool. I need a 50-page report on plastic plants and how well they,
real, aren't they?
Totally, bro.
Graham, they're real.
We have budget cuts. We can't afford real plants here. But yeah, you know what I mean though? I think that's the fundamental question here.
Yeah.
And I do agree. I just want to go back to the transparency thing.
Yeah.
I do agree with that a lot. I think that should be a cultural norm.
Yeah.
But part of that norm is that the AI isn't making the decision.
Yeah.
Because that's your job.
Yeah. So the last piece on that, which I think is super important as well, is leadership. Okay. The boss can't be firing Workslop down to people.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
The boss has to be super transparent. Okay.
Yeah.
The boss has to be focused on quality. The boss has to set the bar extremely high in this sort of scenario, because if you are the boss, the founder, the leader of the team, and you start doing that sort of stuff, everybody's going to do the Workslop approach to everything.
You know, I think about where else we would have had something like this. So as an example, we had like our HR policies.
Yep.
And for HR policies, I was like, man, I really don't want to start at zero, mostly because I'm not a fully trained HR professional.
Yeah.
So I went and I found kind of like a template, and some of it was filled in. These are the important things to think about. And nowadays, you just take that into and slap it in AI and get a bunch of answers. And that would actually really help.
Yeah, actually, that would get you started,
get
for sure.
you way
But then
into
you would go through that. You would
Exactly.
like, all right, so now you're a pilot, and
Yeah.
you're going to augment, your feelings with those concepts from
Right.
AI. How do I actually feel about these HR best practices, for example?
Yeah, like
absolutely.
is this actually what we want to do here? Do I align with these? This is aligned with our mission and our values and all those sorts of things.
Yeah. Cool.
Anyway,
That's where I landed.
That's what. So I guess like for me, it's pushing it. I really think you need to understand what you're doing, and you got to be making the decisions. And accelerating shitty work helps no one. That's why. And I can see that also. Like to be honest with you, in really really big companies, there's a certain percentage of people that just keep their head down. Yeah. And they want to keep their job because it's a good job or whatever.
Yeah.
And for those people, this is the best tool ever, because they barely have to work. They don't see the gain because they don't have to work. They don't work more. They don't do the extra work.
Right.
They have AI do the thing for 25 minutes, for 25 seconds.
Yeah.
And then they take that input and fire it off, and they're done for the day.
Yeah.
And they don't do any other work.
There's going to be a huge issue with people losing jobs over this kind of stuff, I think. Once management realizes that, these people are actually using AI and just Workslopping everything.
Yeah.
Well, we don't need that then.
That's the productivity gap, though.
Yeah.
That's
absolutely.
it right there.
Absolutely.
Like those are people who just, because they don't take advantage of the gain.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
As an employee, be a pilot, be motivated, be
Use
focused
the
on your
tools
job,
effectively.
try and excel.
Yeah.
Because they're like low level work is not going to be acceptable anymore. The bar is going to be very
I think
high.
so. I think so too.
Cool.
Yeah. Hey,
We solved it.
You did it.
No more
Mission
work slop.
accomplished. Also, one important thing I want to just throw out there: go Blue Jays. Let's go. Let's take out those Yankees. All right. See you later, folks. Hey.
Start it up. Let's get it rolling. Big ideas, money folding. Hustle smart, dream so wide. Turn that grind into a joyride.